Guys, I've spent the past 12 years of my life designing this knife. I had no idea how relentlessly unforgiving and rewarding it would be. This is our latest knife, the Fjell. A small, integral, titanium handle button lock flipper that has challenged every single aspect of what we do. And we are super excited to start finally bringing these into the world. Let me take you back to the year 2012. Now, Eric and I started this business in 2011, so we're super green still in 2012. Just went to Blade Show, our first ever Blade Show, had been to the USN show in Vegas twice, and in that year we came out with the Norseman, our flagship knife, the first one. We've been making this ever since. This is Norseman number 1, the first one. I always keep number 1, Eric always keeps number 2. So we just came out with this knife. We'd been to a couple shows, we'd seen a bunch of other knives, and at that time I wanted to design the next knife, the next really cool thing that challenged me, that pushed me, that saw everything I learned at other shows from other makers. The one that really stands out is the Brad Southard Flipping Tanto Integral that I probably saw around that time too, that inspired this whole journey of making our Fjell knife. Flipping Tanto is a beautiful little knife. So it's a little tiny integral. So around that time, I get into SolidWorks at the time. I'm designing this knife. I want to design an integral. The Norseman's a decently large knife. I wanted to design a smaller knife, under 3-inch, to appease the European guys, because especially back then it was more critical to make a sub 3-inch knife. We never did until now. So I wanted to make a sub 3-inch integral frame lock at the time knife. So I designed it in SolidWorks, and then I had a buddy of mine, this is 2012, I had a buddy of mine 3D print this. I think this was done on a MakerBot, and this was done on a resin printer. You can see how, like, it's resin. It's actually really impressive. For a 12-year-old 3D printing technology, I'm still super impressed by this. So this is what I wanted it to be like, and I have a CAD model of it. We have some screenshots. I wanted it to have this sort of peak shape, this mountainous peak there. I wanted it to be slim. I wanted the blade to sit basically flush in the handles, although I had to have these little tabs stick up to hide the flipper tab. But this is what I was playing with. It broke here, that's why this choil is so big. It's actually broken. So it's super cool, actually, to look back at this. I wanted this sheep's foot blade with a slightly upswept edge. And let's give a little comparison. What do you think? Not bad, eh? 12 years ago, today. Actually, this was made like 8 months ago, but not bad. So I wanted it to be a frame lock, because that's all I knew how to do at the time, was make a frame lock, because Norseman, frame lock. However, that added complication, because when you have a frame lock integral, you have no way of preloading the lock bar cutout. Because when we take these handles apart, we can just bend it, and it'll get past the stress point, and then it'll hold the bend, and then you have tension. With an integral, you can't overbend it because there's another handle in the way. So what a lot of people do is they'll heat it up with a torch, and they'll push it in, they'll let it cool down, and then it'll have some tension. It's kind of hokey, and then you have a brown, like purple handle because of the heat anodizing you just put onto it. You gotta blast it. It's a mess. But I did have this idea to put our stop pin here so that I could thread it in and then cover it with this little diamond-shaped cap. Never ended up following through with that. Using an off-the-shelf Alpha Knife Supply pivot, our bearings, oh no, these are off-the-shelf bearings. And then I thought I could put the bearings in from the front, because an integral knife, you got to put the bearings somewhere. A lot of people put them into the blade. Let's see, if I have a blade here, a lot of people will machine a pocket on this side and then machine a pocket on this side. And I just don't like that. I like to have a full thickness blade to support the pivot and just give a lot more side load, axial load, and then you don't have to fight with the squareness of having two machine pivot bearing pockets in the blade and the depth on one side to the other. I'd rather put that work into the handle. So that's what a lot of people do. Why did this take 12 years? Well, I was just slow. I'm just slow. that's what I do. I picked away at it pretty much every Christmas for a while, as I had, you know, a couple days at home to just focus on it. And then I'd pick it away, I'd put it away for a couple years, and then I'd come back to it, and I'd pick away, and then I wanted to make it a button lock, and then I wanted to, you know, get rid of the frame lock, and then pick away. The thing that really bothered me was the clip. So at the time, 2012, I'm like, well, I could put 2 screws on the clip because that's how we did the original Norseman, right? So we had 2 screws on the Norseman, and I could put 2 screws on the Fjell. But the more I thought about it, the more I kind of realized how hokey that was. I want as few screws as possible on this thing. And if I can get away with that, like, I'd be creating something really special, something amazing. And that's what I want. I want to create amazing things, even if it takes 12 years. So that bugged me. The frame lock bugged me. The clip screws bugged me. Putting the cover over the stop pin, it all kind of bugged me. But this knife literally has been gnawing away at my brain for the past 12 years. And like, deep in the back, just kind of settled in there, just driving me crazy. So I dedicated the past year, all of 2024 was my year for the Fjell, my year to make this knife. And boy, did I. So throughout 2024, I evolved the 3D print model. From that to this, I started to integrate a lot of the components that we use on our other knives, like the pivot, although the pivot is different to the Fjell, but it's similar-ish. You can see the button here. And then I kind of just cleaned up all the lines and all the shapes. I got rid of these flutes, although I really do like them. I think they look really cool. To keep it simple, you can only focus on so many things at once, I just went with a smooth contoured design handle. I really wanted this flush spine. Like, just really clean, squared off. Here I had it rounded and I put some little details into it. I think that's too much. And it's quite skinny on that. I fattened it and squared it up just a little bit on the 3D print. And then I also integrated 2 stop pins here. Now, man, I could talk for years about all of the crazy things that we do. 2 stop pins is one of them. We started this, I think it was Eric's idea back in 2014, 15, something like that. Basically, long story short, 2 stop pins, because a knife has 2 features. Detent, to keep it closed and let it flip out, and lockup when it's in the open position. So you have your open position and you have your closed position. Why is everybody using 1 pin to control 2 separate things? I don't get it. We use 2 pins to control 2 separate things. That way, if you need to tweak the detent, tweak the stop pin. If you need to tweak the lockup, you tweak the lock pin. And it works so great. Now on an integral, how do you get pins inside the knife? Well, we screw them in from the outside. So this 3D print was the theory behind that, and I spent literally hundreds of hours in CAD just over 2024, plus probably hundreds of hours throughout the past 10 years before that, fine-tuning how this knife goes together, how everything clears, how everything lines up, where the stop pin can go, etc., until you get to the point when you have to make it. You start making it. Now, I've got lots of Knife Making Tuesday videos about this. Not as many as I could have, but a decent amount. And this is kind of the first one. Did I put a date on it? Bro, you didn't put a date on it? Anyway, notice the Swiss cheese blade, because I wasn't ready to cut the bevels into it yet. So making it Swiss cheese gives it the same weight balance. I literally mathed it out, the smaller holes in the front, so that it has the same fling, the same weight, because a heavier blade flips out different than a light blade. So the weight balance goes good, it flips good. This, even now, kind of feels like what a Fjell feels like. That's great. So a lot of things are going on here. 2024 is starting to go by. Blade Show 2024 is coming up. I have committed to bringing at least a few Fjells to Blade Show, because we hadn't been to a Blade Show in many years before that. So I had to hustle, I had to rush, I had to push through. This one's not even finished machined yet. This is how we tab it on the machine and just kind of let it machine everything else. We machine this handle on a 5-axis kern that is really freaking sweet, if I'd say so myself, and I do. and then leave it on the tabs, and then this gets cut off in a secondary operation. You can see on my knife, clean. Nice. So putting this one together, let me test the button. Let me test my dual stop pins right there and there. Let me test my pivot. Let me test the clip. I put the speed holes in there to see where the edge lands against the back of the handle. Very important stuff. I'm now noticing how simple and somewhat ugly the inside of this one looks, and we just got better and better. I'll show you later. It's got a streamline pattern on it. So here you can see a perfect example of what I'm talking about. This is the lock pin. Lock only. Nothing to do with the detent. It doesn't touch here. Let's see, this part of the blade right there is what touches our detent pin, which is down there. So when it goes like this, see the detent pins right there, boop. And if we need the blade to come up, or the button to be softer or harder, or just to get that perfect place with no play, this one has a little bit of play, so it needs a bigger pin. That's what the big pin's for, or the detent pin. So from making one blade, I made another blade, and I made another blade, and I didn't even bring them all. And I made another handle, and every time, this one actually has a broken end mill in it, because I was trying to cut the clip slot, and I obviously made a big mistake. So there is carbide in there, and that is not coming out. And sometimes you just make mistakes, and you just like, oh well, move on, do it again. Boom. So the clip, remember I talked about I didn't want a screwy-on clip because that's dumb, and why do I have to do that? I don't have to do that. Let's get crazy. I wanted to make a clip-on clip, because how cool would it be to have an integral, a Fjell, with no screws? Like, as few screws as possible. Technically, the only screw on this knife is the pivot screw. The stop pins do screw in, but are they screws? They're kind of like set screws. They just kind of hold themselves in. I'm barely calling them screws, even though they are threaded. So really all I want is the pivot screw. So I wanted to make, let's see if I can get this one out. Oh, these sucked so hard in the beginning. They got way better. Okay, let me show you. Oh, there's the date. Look at that, March 10th, 2024 at 2236:33. I actually faked that time. I manually wrote that. So I wanted to make a clip that clips on. Now notice this guy, and I really, really, really wanted to make it on our Williman machine, because I bought that machine to make clips, spent a lot of money on it, haven't utilized it very much, and I feel bad about that. And I wanted to make this from round bar, see if we can put a clip in there from one of our videos, so that this is a one and done complete part right off the Williman that maybe needs just a little touch up, a little buffing and deburring. I think this one did get deburred. And then it has these two spring-loaded ears that clip into this slot in the handle. That's what I wanted. I wanted this to slide together like that and go together and clip in. Oh, these early ones suck. Oh, that's so gross. That's actually really hard to do. And be just like that. Easy peasy, right? So I did it, and I did this one, and I'm like, I love it, but I kind of hate it too. That's a bad workflow. That's a bad user interface, is putting this thing together. It just feels gross. It's really hard to get out. Pretty sure this one actually doesn't have very much wiggle. But some of the other ones, like my first one, has quite a bit of wiggle. Gross, right? We don't want that. We don't want that. We can't have that. We cannot have this. Gross, gross, gross. If I can get my focus back. So I also didn't really like the shape, but I had to rush it before Blade Show, because sometimes you just have to make a decision. Sometimes you just have to make a call and say, you know what, it's good enough. If we're going to take these to Blade Show, we gotta go. We just gotta do it. We just gotta make them. So I accepted it. Now, trust me, I spent hours going, can the clip go this way more? Can it be fatter? Can it be wider? Can it be angled? Can it be whatever? I need it to be flush here because that's the goal. I want it to match the profile. And then how do you terminate off into the hand? I could talk about this forever. I didn't like it, but I accepted it for the first 10-ish. I think actually AP10 is the last one with this clip before we went to the next clip. Speaking of which, the next clip is this design. Notice how it's mo better. Fatter at the top, doesn't have this little armpit right there. A little bit fatter at the bottom. Bigger logo maybe? Yeah, just to fill it out. And it's just, I like it a lot better. It suits our brand, it suits our image. It's very similar to the Rask and Norseman clip. I mean, this is ancient Norseman clip. But, you know, similar. This I didn't like this one, but it's fine for beginnings. Once I had the new clip design, that got me very happy. I was still really, really pissed about this wiggle. I don't like this wiggle. And it is, like, literally unacceptable. I have a whole Knife Making Tuesday video on making this clip, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but real quick, notice how this is a straight slot. Basically, when you have two straight lines, you know, this being straight and the clip being straight, and they go together, in order for there to be enough play to assemble it, there is going to be a little bit of wiggle. And that drove me nuts and nuts and nuts and nuts. And then it finally occurred to me, based on actually understanding the comments that were coming at me, and the suggestions, is to make it a wedge. So the clip is a wedge that comes into the handle, which is a mating wedge, and then it still has these little spring-loaded ears to lock it into place. And boy, once I did that, this is production 002. Once I did that, zero wiggle. Absolutely zero wiggle. Super duper duper happy with that. Once I had a prototype that I was happy with, and we've become quite known for our flipping action and our smoothness of knives, so I cannot release another knife that isn't at least as good, if not better, than our Norseman and Rask, which are essentially legendary, if I do say so myself, and I do. It needs to be good. So once I got my prototype to be really, really good, not 100% perfect, but like happy enough to move on, we decided to start making the AP knives. These are the artist's proof. It's basically an excuse for us to make sellable prototypes, and I had no idea how many we would end up making. We ended up making 18 of them, with a couple scrap that didn't make the cut. Like number 7 doesn't exist, number 14 doesn't exist. I have number 1, Eric has number 2, and we ended up bringing 6 of them to Blade Show, and they sold, and it was great. And then I now have 10 to 18 minus 14 that are like ready to go, ready to sell. Now the APs are pretty cool because some of them, not all of them, got this super cool artist proof engraving. Can I get in that close? Yep. Artist proof. Now I put that at the front of the handle. How baller is that? With a 5-axis you can do so many cool things. So I want hidden engravings everywhere. Ooh, look at that. Hidden in there, Grimsmo knives. Yeah, buddy. The date is under the clip. The revision of the handle. This is handle P14, prototype 14. And the date is auto-engraved in there. I can't quite read it. So the APs, man, the APs came together excellently. Oh, listen to that. That feels just amazing. Drops a little slow, if I'm honest. But that's the thing with the APs. They are prototypes. They are the final design changes of making this knife. By the time I get to the end of the APs, I want to be in production. And that was the goal. And we did it. After the APs, we decided to make 100, and we're calling them first 100 knives. So in the course of the first 100, now we're not making any major design changes, but we're making minor design changes. Tolerances, fit and finish, thickness of the edge, exact detent feel, things like that. So we're still allowing ourselves a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of breathing room to make 100, because honestly, guys, sometimes you can only fine-tune something by making dozens of them. And I wish, like, the first one and every one are going to be perfect, but that's not the reality of manufacturing. And I don't want to scrap 100 knives just because, oh, like, one little thing is wrong. No, and I know you guys like the early prototypes, and I know you guys like to see the progression, even though me, as a manufacturer, as a perfectionist, as a nerd, wants everything to be absolutely perfect. Don't send anything out until it's perfect. I have pulled back on that, and it's been really fun creating the APs and then the first 100, and literally by 101, they're dialed. They're good. Haven't made 101 yet, but we are currently in the production process of making the first 100. We finished almost 10 of them, and it's going awesome. In this part of the episode, let's talk about some APs. So as I talked about earlier, let's see, we have AP10 and AP12 here. AP10 is the last of the, I don't want to call it the ugly clip, let's call it the skinny clip. I don't hate it, I just didn't like it that much. AP11, okay, so we got 11, 12, 13, 13 is going to a customer that literally bought Norseman 40 or something. Like, he has been a customer since 2012, and I value him as a customer. I value all of our customers, but like, I thought of this guy specifically, and he's been wanting one forever. So I'm very happy. Like, every AP is basically going to a special person in my life, whether it be business or personal or whatever. So that's pretty cool. A 10 especially is going to a very special customer of ours. This one has a slightly wiggly clip, but I think by these ones, I was just fine-tuning it better, and then I figured out that kind of wedge taper to get that clip seated in there, and then I was able to dial it throughout the rest of the APs, and by the end of the APs, I was like, yes, this is it, sweet. All of the APs, well, not all of them, let's get one more. I got 15 here. 15 is a machinist finish. Look at that. Oh, okay. Stonewashed, machinist finish. What do I mean by machinist finish? I mean, this handle is literally right off the machine. Notice our Made in Canada maple leaf. Very proud of our Made in Canada. Not all the APs have the maple leaf, actually. 10 doesn't, 14 doesn't. That's okay. That just is what it is. I didn't add it till later. Machinist finish. I am so freaking proud of the surface finishes we are getting off of the Kern and with the tools we're using, and the Speedio is doing our spine here, that I just wanted to make some machinist finish knives. Not just for my machinist nerds, but for you collectors and fans as well. If I can get this thing in focus. The blades, however, have to be stonewashed unless we like polish the whole thing. We're not willing to do that yet. So on the machinist finish, well, all of these have stonewashed blades. Polished button. This button is 440C stainless steel, and it has been mirror polished, and you can see the camera in the reflection. You can probably see me. Yep. Hello. The pivots are ground on the machine, and it's got this beautiful circular grind pattern. I have a custom grinding wheel made, and we put it in our Torno Swiss lathe, and as we make these pivots and pivot screws, it grinds that finish. Now normally on a Norseman and stuff we tumble the pivots, but on these knives I really wanted to send out that finish because I think it looks stellar. Notice the light reflecting off all the chamfers. Like, we are so proud of this machinist finish. It's a shame to hide it under stonewash, as we do for most of our products. But it looks absolutely sick stonewash too. Doesn't it? I think it does. So speed holes let you see how much edge gap there is, and while that may look like a lot to you, I was sitting there flicking it, banging it against the lower stop pin, and If I get too much closer than that, the edge will start to hit the inside of the spine, and that is absolutely unacceptable. And on my prototype, I was chipping the edge. So I realized there is enough flex in material, in the blade, in the button, in everything, that if you smack it hard enough, you will close that gap. So it needs to have a decent sized gap. It just does. It just does. Because chipping your edge on the back of your spine is no bueno. I guess I never really discussed the elephant in the room, that this, on my AP01 blade, is Damasteel. And it is, try to guess what pattern that is. It's such an interesting variation of this pattern that I would never guess what pattern this is. And we actually sat down for dinner. The Damasteel team at Blade Show took us out to dinner to a very fancy Michelin star restaurant. Took us out to dinner, and I put this in their face, and I was like, "What pattern is this? You're Damasteel. You guys got to know this." And most of them got it right. So it's actually Thor pattern, and Thor pattern is normally a lot bigger and swoopier, and this linear straight lines is super unique. And what happened was we made it from like a 4-inch wide, really, really wide piece of Damasteel, and this was one of the outside edges of that wide piece of bar. If we made the blade in the center of that bar or made it from a skinnier bar, it would have more traditional, bigger, swoopy Thor patterns. So basically we had, I think we got 3 knives wide, and the outer ones have this more linear pattern, and the middle piece had the more swoopier regular Thor pattern. So, but there's only a couple of these, and they're pretty special. Dude, I could talk about this forever. I changed so many things throughout this process. I don't want to bore you guys, but I want to show you cool stuff. I worked really hard on this. This handle is older than this handle, and I can tell because I need a little pointing device. This feature is 3D machined with a little ball end mill, and I always hated it. I always felt it looked not great. It was hard to get it good. It was always kind of chattery, had to be cleaned up. Didn't like it. So I actually bought a very expensive $180 just off the shelf key seat cutter, a full radius key seat cutter from Harvey Tools, to do this feature so that it doesn't look like that and it looks like that. And that's all it does. It does that, and it actually chamfers the inside of that wall, and not on this one, this little lip right here, because we had a burr forming on that, which I didn't love. This one, the burr had to be hand stoned down. One of the many cool features of this knife, having basically a straight plane here, a straight plane here, and a straight plane here, is that it sits in different orientations. It has a flat plane. This is literally a flat plane from here to here, and then here to here is a radius, so a tangent radius. But this is a flat plane, so it stands up. It doesn't stand on the front corner because it's too tilted forward. When it's open, it has this hump here, and the speed holes allow it to balance. So letting it balance on that spot lets you spin it around like that, which is just cool. It's just really cool. And I like to make cool stuff. Notice how it's a little tail heavy, at least on this particular one, because the new clip is heavier than the old clip. And I bet you this knife will tilt just a little, a lot more forward. Holy cow. Didn't quite realize it was so much. Yep, because the new clip is heavier. So obviously this is something I could fine tune to get it like dead level, but do I care? It's just cool. It spins, that's all I really care about. So I've already talked about the first 100. These first 100 knives are where we're gonna fine tune the recipe. Just like, does it need a little bit more salt? Does it need a little bit of pepper in here? Did it cook the noodles too long? That's basically what we're trying to do with these first 100. We're trying to establish a set of tolerances, and we're still fine tuning. We're trying to see how tools last, because making this handle, do I have an example? Yeah. Making this handle on a 5-axis integral, or on a 5-axis machine, is very doable, but how long did the tool last before you start losing tolerances, before the tools wear out, before they leave a bad surface finish, before the pivot doesn't fit anymore? How much do you have to measure? How much do you have to comp? How much do you have to blah, 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 blah. So we're using the first 100 to like literally run production. And we made 100 handles in less than a month of an untested product, and learned those things very quickly. And I was extremely impressed at the tool life we were getting, and the surface finish we were able to hold, and the tolerances we were able to keep was insane. I mean, to make this clip in the new non-wiggly state, like this one, this is AP15 with a non-wiggly clip, the handle has to be held to within plus or minus 1/10,000th of an inch, and the clip feature has to be also plus or minus 1/10,000th of an inch, and we're actually holding it. And it's amazing, because when those two features are perfect, they go together, no play. When they're more than a few tenths out, then you might get some play, you might get the clip not entering as far, yada, yada, yada. And we're doing it. It's amazing. So with the first 100, like this one, let's get up close with this. Nice up and close and personal. There we go. Let's go full zoom. So we've got that mirror polished button. Hello. Same features we talked about before. Stone-washed blade. When we grind the bevels on our Speedio, see how they're reflective? Even though it's a stone wash, it is a mirror. This is on a ground bevel. And our flats are mirror polished as well because they're lapped. But this bevel, the fact you can see the cut on my finger in that bevel is insane. I absolutely love it. So not only do we grind it extremely accurately and to a good finish on the machine, on our Speedio at the moment, our guys sit there with polishing stones. They'll do it by hand, they'll do it with some tooling, some motorized equipment, die profiler, etc. And they get these bevels just popping. Now this one, number 2, it's very sharp, has pretty fat edge. Notice how thick that that sharpened edge is. That means that the thickness behind the edge is fatter than we want. And once Eric started sharpening these, that was one of his first requests. It's like, can you tighten up that edge thickness a little bit? It needs to be a little bit thinner. This is, not only is it taking a long time, but it's leading to a fat edge, which is just not as aesthetically pleasing or required for that matter. This is a light, small knife. 3-inch blade, you know, fits really good in the hand. And the edge doesn't need to be this thick. I can feel it. When I was at Blade Show, one of the things I was obsessing with was feeling edges like this. Just kind of run my hand away from the edge, feel the thickness. Look at that reflection. Feel the thickness and feel the consistency throughout. And it's amazing on this, obviously, because we make it. But it is too thick. So as we progress throughout the first 100, they get thinner and thinner and thinner. And then I'm literally at the point now where I think it's the right thickness, and Eric hasn't yet sharpened those ones to see if it is the right thickness. So we're still in that feedback loop. It's amazing. Machinist finish handle. Now, transferring these through the shop without scratching a single thing has actually been a big challenge for us. So one of our guys, Grayson, has been 3D printing, has been tasked with 3D printing these storage trays to be able to move parts across the shop without scratching anything. You can't even, like, this is rich light, and I am afraid of putting this on the paper phenolic resin rich light material. So I have my Autodesk mousepad. Not sponsored by Autodesk in this video, so they don't get to show their logo. But, so I can set it on that, and I'm not going to scratch it. Let's see, my knife, I've been carrying this since June, since we finished it for Blade Show. It is also machinist finish, and it definitely scratches, but I think it looks sick. I think it's just wearing in nicely. And if we compare it to this without touching them, I touched. So you can see all the little scuffs and scrapes and life. It's wearing in beautifully. And I like it. You can see here we actually added details. Every little divot in there is purposely machined. I had to draw every single point and make a drill program to tap all those places. And we are surfacing, 3D machining the inside of the handles with a long skinny tool. Beep, 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 beep. And then, so we're roughing it out, and then we're finishing each wall. So you see how reflective that wall is? Oh, I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. So proud of these. I'm so happy with how these have turned out. I'm absolutely obsessed with every tiny little detail, good, bad, and otherwise. Things I'm not going to tell you about because they're not perfect yet, but they will continue to get perfect. So by the time we get out of these first 100, like, they will be dialed, and maybe we'll keep tweaking after that, but that's where we're at. Guys, I could talk about this. It's 12:30 at night. I could talk about this for another 5 hours. I got to go to bed. However, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I think this past 12 years has been worth it. Obviously, we've built an incredible business in that time. It's not like I spent all my time just making this and not making it. We've made over 10,000 knives, Rask and Norseman. So we're ready. We're ready for this knife. We're ready to make an integral. We're ready to make the best integral? I don't know. It's up to you guys. Let me know once you get them. So if you happen to be somebody who is interested in such a beautiful, precision crafted, Canadian-made, heritage quality piece of beautifulness, here's what you do. First step, leave a comment, tell me what you think. I want to know. I want to hear from you guys. I want to see how excited you are. If you're not excited, just move on, go somewhere else. Second step, on our website, we have a sign-up form for all four of our products, because this is now number 4. So you can sign up for the Fjell interest list. Now, it's just an interest list. We've already got so much demand that we've been collecting over the past year. The first 100 knives will be kind of randomly drawn from that list of people, and emails will be sent out, and those people will get picked, and they'll have an opportunity to buy this knife via those emails and through our website. Now, we're also going to play, probably from these first 100, we're going to do some Instagram drops, we're going to do some like sprinkled on the website, we're just going to play around. But the goal is to sell them. The goal is to get them out of our hair so that we can focus and move on to the next 101 onward. And in due time, we will be offering buyer's choice, which is how we sell our Rask and our Norseman right now, where you can pick the color, the options, the acid edge blade, sometimes damaged steel, sometimes DLC code, whatever options we're having available at the time. Buyer's choice allows you to pick those things. Now, the funny thing with the Fjell is there's no accent color. There's no like purple hardware because there's no titanium screws on this thing. The stop pins are stainless steel and they can't be anodized. So basically it's handle color, clip color, blade, finish, whatever options are there. So, but that's only after 101. The first 100 are all going to be absolutely identical. Stonewashed blade, machinist finish handle, except for like 3 Damascene steel blades that we made in the beginning until we decided to just go all the same. Get these 100 out the door, move on, and continue with our lives. Because this project has consumed me, you guys. It has absolutely driven me crazy. I spent months trying to figure out that clip wiggle, and now I've spent weeks and weeks trying to figure out various things like blade play, lock stick in the button, exact tolerances, because I want this to be flush and it's sometimes not, and I want this to be coplanar and be a perfect angle and it's sometimes not, on and on and on. I'm obsessing about absolutely everything because I want to provide as much value to you guys as possible. This is our new flagship. This is the epitome, the culmination of all of my skills and all of my talents being a self-taught machinist for the past 15 years to 18 years. I don't even know. We've built an amazing business. We've got an insane team. There's 12 of us here working in the shop. I want to grow this business. I want to do so many more things. I want to dedicate more time, not just my time, but my staff's time into more projects like this. And that only happens with your guys' support. So you guys keep buying from us. We keep making cool stuff. Everybody's happy. We get to make a great living. You guys get to get cool stuff. Keep making videos like this. Have fun. Do what we love to do. Like, I love it. It's great. And it is worth all the stress and hassle and pain and pulling my hair out and tolerances and breaking machines and crashing and replacing spindles and on and on and on and on. It's worth it. It really is. Because I get to carry this in my pocket every day, and I actually haven't carried a Rasker Norseman in the 8 months since I've been carrying my Fjell, and I'm very, very happy with it. It's an early one, so I'm kind of pissed at all these little details, but overall, I'm super thrilled with it. And I hope you guys will be too. So, go to the website, sign up to the forum, leave a comment, let me know what you think, send us an email, support a Full Grimsmo, catch us on Instagram, like, just keep in touch, because I want to hear from you guys. And I hope you're doing well. So hopefully, that video gave you all the little juicy bits that you wanted, because it was pretty fun. Alright, I will see you guys on the next one, and peace out. I don't say peace. Why did I say peace out? I don't know. Next time. Bye.